all the indices of state failure are in place. There is an unprecedented level of impunity and a never-before witnessed orgy of violence across the land, as witnessed even yesterday. Criminal gangs are holding swaths of the Nigerian territory, bombing state infrastructure, collecting taxes, kidnapping travelers for ransom, sacking whole villages, burning down police stations, dislodging soldiers from their military outposts, abducting school children, transforming some into child soldiers and others into sex slaves, carrying out mass executions, and sending periodic threats to the federal government. In the face of these brazen attacks that are equivalent to an open declaration of war, the government in place appears either utterly incapable or inexplicably unwilling to perform the primary duty of government, namely, to protect the lives and property of Nigerians. It is to such an extent that many Nigerians in exasperation now wonder if high-level agents of government are not actually complicit in this genocidal war against innocent Nigerians. Indeed, many are beginning to believe that there are treasonous persons within the governance structure who have resolved to destroy the Nigerian state in the manner we are witnessing today. Election cycle after election cycle, Nigerians have kept on rearranging chairs on a Titanic that is drowning. The state is failing, and it is failing at an alarming rate. Nigerians have seen their lives devalued and their rights diminished on every count. Rural farming communities are being deserted massively and rapidly on account of the menace of bandits and killer headsmen that have taken over territories which used to be referred to as the food basket of the nation. Many of the farming communities in Benue, Plateau, Kaduna, Zamfara, Katsina, Adamawa, Taraba, and Borno states have become killing fields from which everyone is today fleeing for their dear lives. Our well-educated, highly skilled, most brilliant and most promising young professionals, including doctors and other medical professionals, IT specialists and engineers of all categories, as well as our most qualified professors, are fleeing the country in droves, begging to be allowed into not only the UK, the US and South Africa, but they are also begging to be allowed into Rwanda and Kenya and even Ghana, as they see no future for themselves and their children in Nigeria. Some of our less educated but ambitious young people are daily perishing while attempting to cross the treacherous Sahara Desert or Mediterranean Sea towards some form of slave labor or sex trafficking in some European or Arab country. Among the others who are not able to escape the madhouse which our country has become, some have felt pushed into crime, engaging in the infamous Yahoo and Yahoo Plus business, or they are resorting to the now profitable enterprise of kidnapping for ransom, or the shocking and disgusting business of killing and harvesting vital human organs for money. Perhaps worth mentioning here are also those young people across the country who have been so diminished by the acrimonious Nigerian circumstance that having given up the idea of their lives having any meaning at all, they now waste whatever is left of their lives on all shades of narcotics and drugs. With regards to the ravages of corruption, it is indeed most lamentable that while the generality of Nigerians are groaning under the weight of ever-worsening economic fortunes, to which the government of the day has no answers, the sensibilities of Nigerians are insulted by what has become a string of daily revelations of monumental corruption or the reckless looting of state resources to the tune of hundreds of billions of naira, involving high-ranking officials of a government that rose to power on the back of an aggressive anti-corruption propaganda. As the government is daily borrowing money from foreign creditors, expending over 90% of its earnings on debt servicing, and ensuring that generations yet unborn will be carrying the burden of these ill-advised loans, agents of the same government are looting away the borrowed funds and squandering them in a life of debauchery, abandoning the mass of people to dehumanizing poverty, bankrupting the moral fabric of the nation, and leaving the social infrastructure in a state of utter decay. Corruption has become so institutionalized and so normalized that nearly every position of leadership is poisoned and polluted. True, Nigeria is today one giant asylum. We seem to have habituated and normalized all the indices of insanity, though we keep going around wearing the mask of sanity. But sane societies do not behave the way we do. The Nigerian ruling class is perhaps among the most opportunistic and rapacious ruling classes in the world, constantly reinventing and reinvigorating itself and seizing every opportunity to violate and devalue the people they claim to serve. They have so shamelessly exploited the people's poverty, so callously manipulated their illiteracy, and so brazenly weaponized their ignorance that it is not at all in the interest of this ruling class to make any serious investment in quality education for the people. No wonder schools and colleges and universities could be shut down for many months and the leaders would just carry on business as usual, as if nothing is amiss. But let me seize this unique opportunity to remind the unrepentant conquerors of the Nigerian people that islands of affluence cannot coexist for long amidst a sea of destitution. Yes, those who are smiling to the bank after putting us in this mess must be reminded that in the process of evolution, if any species is overhunting and overexploiting the very resources they depend upon as nourishment, sooner or later, natural selection would take the predator out and restore some measure of equilibrium. What is restructuring? Restructuring is a demand for the rule of law and equal citizenship, in short. Many of those who cry of marginalization today indeed do have a case. Across the country, there are very clear instances of the abuse and violation of the federal character principle as contained in Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution. In the last few years, we have witnessed bare-faced and brazen acts of nepotism and sectionalism, whereby federating units are not treated equally. Rewards, and particularly sanctions, are not applied equally if and when they are. And appointments to the leadership position of critical organs and agencies of government are seen by many as often in blatant and reckless disregard for equity and justice. The apparent lack of political will to crush the marauding bandits across the country and the near absence of any sanctions for the criminal herders that are terrorizing the population across the country, for example, have so utterly divided and polarized the Nigerian population, have sown so much discord among the people who have lived together for generations. Yes, these perceived acts of injustice on the part of government have so terribly induced and elevated political tension across the country and precipitated so much distrust and resentment towards the leadership that indeed today we cannot continue to speak of the unity of Nigeria as non-negotiable with any measure of seriousness. Our unity is indeed negotiable and subject to review, since we claim that ours is a democratic union and democracy only finds expression in the mutual acknowledgement of the right of self-determination. See Article 1 of the UN Charter and Article 20 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Justice and the rule of law are the first conditions of humanity. The law is the anchor upon which the entire system of society revolves. The widespread damage, the widespread demand for restructuring could be seen as a blanket cover for several grievances bordering on the impression that we do not all enjoy equal citizenship. Yes, that in Nigeria there are super citizens on the one hand who often make up the ruling class, who enjoy many rights and privileges, and non-citizens on the other, whose experience of the state is that of pain and distress, and in many instances, multi-generational trauma. But the demand for justice and equal citizenship can only be met where the rule of law is firmly in place. If the law does not rule, impunity reigns, as is largely the case with us today, whereby the state is configured to protect the rulers and their allies or kinsmen and women. When people feel perpetually aggrieved by an unjust, inequitable, and iniquitous governance system, that nation or country will continually be in a state of war. And discerning persons can attest to the fact that our situation in Nigeria has for a long time been the moral equivalence of war. The reason people are being killed with impunity everywhere across the country today, and others are being abducted or kidnapped, is that the perpetrators know they will often not have to answer for their crimes. They know that there are very slim chances of their being apprehended or punished for their crimes. So, the crimes continue to flourish. This is the reign of impunity, and no nation can survive for long under such a regime of impunity. Now, let's put political correctness aside and speak the hard truth to ourselves. Does anyone here, does any thinking Nigerian really believe that where we are today is sustainable beyond the immediate? Yes, notwithstanding the familiar posturing of those who are benefiting the most from our ignominious system, does any discerning Nigerian really believe that as presently configured, Nigeria will survive beyond a few more years of wobbling on the precipice? We can shout God forbid as we may, but quite frankly, my reading of the situation is that unless we change our course, we will end up where we are headed. And I say with all sense of responsibility that we are racing imperiously towards a predictable disaster in one form or the other. True, everything in the horizon is suggestive of an imminent implosion from Sokoto to Calabar and from Maiduguri to Lagos. Where we find ourselves today is comparable to a boiling pot, a pressure cooker. If we do not find a way to let out the steam, it is bound to explode with devastating consequences. My many discerning and privileged Nigerians have seen the handwriting on the wall, and they have been perfecting some form of plan B for themselves and their immediate family members. But those of us who have no plan B of any sort must now take the bull by the horns and summon the courage to address the major cracks and crevices in our structural arrangements, in our perception and regard for the rule of law and equal citizenship, in our leadership recruitment processes, and in what priority we accord to leadership integrity and accountability. Nigeria was not designed to be the monster it has become today, recklessly devouring its children and callously inflicting pain and distress on the most talented and patriotic of its people. The original terms agreed upon by the founding fathers of Nigeria, which were the result of the painstaking negotiations at the constitutional conferences held in Nigeria and in the UK between 1953 and 1959, have been severely violated and senselessly brutalized by both military adventurists and civilian conquerors. Many legal experts today believe that the constitutional arrangement which the military bequeathed us by the way of 1999 Constitution has little semblance with the 1960 Independence Constitution or the 1963 Republican Constitution, by which Nigeria became a federal republic. This explains in large measure why 62 years after independence and after fighting a bitter civil war where we lost millions of our brothers and sisters, there is today a renewed clamor for not only self-determination, but even outright secession by significant elements from some of the ethnic nationalities that came together in October 1960 to form the independent Nigerian Federation. Now, time for a critical dialogue towards 2003 and 23 and beyond. In the run-up to the 2023 elections, therefore, those of us who have not given up on Nigeria, and that means most of us here, we must start asking, and we do owe it a duty to ask, national unity at what cost? And on what terms? What really are the fundamental